Hello everyone, my name is Jake and welcome to my very first GameMaker tutorial slash walkthrough. Now in this tutorial I'm going to show you almost everything you need to know about start making games in the GameMaker software. First by just doing a little rundown of the software. So what you see here is a toolbar of all of these neat little things here that have a variety of functions. These three here are just to introduce you to how to create a brand new game, open an existing game, and to save. And saving the game, this button here is probably going to be your most primary used button on this screen because you'll want to be saving a lot. Because there's going to be a lot of code that you're going to have that you're going to want to save very frequently. This button here is essentially you're going to be creating your .exe or .zip file for your game once you're finished creating it. That way you can launch the game without going into this program. And these buttons here, this one is essentially allows you to run your game to test how things work, newly implemented code that you put in. This essentially does the exact same thing except it runs it in debug mode. I haven't used this to an extent because I don't really do anything with it. This one, you'll want to do this if you'll want to press this button here if you have some sort of issue with your game and it doesn't close by itself and you just want to stop it altogether. Let's see, and then these ones are going to be the most important ones that you're going to use. This one essentially creates a sprite for you, which will show up in this sprite folder right here. This one, I believe, yes, it creates an audio file. This one creates a background. This one creates a path, a script, shader, font, timeline, an object, and a room. You can basically do all of these buttons right here on this tray here. Instead of actually pushing these buttons. I know a lot of people like to use these buttons instead of doing it here. I prefer doing it here because it makes it so that your train of thought is on this file path here and not somewhere else, like up here, for example. So this is where your sprites are going to be. I'm using one of my other projects called Moving In. It's, a platformer game. So most of the sprites I have will be, side scrolling type things. And as you can see, you can create many different types of folders or groups. Whoops. As you can see, I just made a new example folder where I can create new groups inside of it so that you can store different file paths for each of your sprites. And the next one is sounds. This is where all of your sounds are stored, and I'll show you one of my other ones here. This is kind of like the night has arrived kind of sound. So this is like your sound interface. I haven't yet explored into what the differences between these mean, but I will do that for you guys at some point and be able to express what they mean later. But for now, basically this opens the sound file for you and you can just find it throughout all of your other programs and things and folders. This plays the sound that you already have and this stops the sound. So let's listen to the sound here. Alright, and that just, stops the sound from playing. And these are all of your channel options and things like that. You can mess around with those. I usually leave them alone. But yeah, so those are sounds. Backgrounds are pretty interesting too, because you can essentially create a background and then you can draw it in the sprite editor or the background editor. Or what you can do is you can load a background and it'll plunk it right into the space here. So that's that. I'm not going to do too much with paths because I don't use them. I typically do I handle pathing and enemy movement in either scripts or in the objects themselves. Now, for this specific section, scripts. Scripts are essentially blocks of code that are not run in an object. Meaning, for example, let me grab an object here. Let's see, player. If we go to the step event and we go to inputs, we have all this code here. We can essentially grab all of this code, plunk it into a script, and then run the script in the step event here without having all of this lumping up in the object's script itself. So essentially it's essentially keeping your project organized in a more I would say more organized fashion rather. Yeah, that sounds funny, I know, but let's move on. Shaders, I don't know much about shaders because I don't use them, but I do know that you can essentially apply a like a black and white filter to a picture in the code. So instead of going in and changing each individual pixel, you can apply a shader or a filter that makes it so that your picture can look black and white or what have you. Fonts, you can create your own font by going in here and typing in the name of your font, and then you can choose from a variety of fonts that you can find on your computer. One of my favorite fonts that I'm currently using for one of my projects is, let's see if I could mouse over to it, or if it's in here, Agency FB. I like this font just because it looks cool to me. I also like it bolded. Bolded looks really nice. But here you can set the anti-aliasing. You can set the size and see that changes how the font size looks, and you can do it up to I think 72, 84. That I think 72 might be the highest you can go. You can italicize it, make it high quality, bold it. I'm not sure what this does. There's a lot of things that I do not know about this software, but I will probably learn it in order to give you guys a better tutorial. So there's our fonts. Timelines, I only recommend using these for bosses and for scripted events such as cutscenes. I might do a tutorial about a cutscene later, but yeah, timelines are for, if you want something specifically to happen at a specific time, then this would be your place to go. So now objects. Objects are probably going to be the place that you spend the most time in. And the reason for that is because each of your things that you want in your game has an object. Now, obviously, everything that I have here is horribly organized. As in, all of my tiles are in the tiles. There are no subgroups about, are there parents? Are they just, normal blocks, or all of these things? So I have them split up to humanoids, tiles, system, environment, resources, and main menu. And they're just divided up into the different subsections. Now, as I showed you before, here's our object player. In here, there are some very interesting things we can do. In this add event button here, we can add different types of events. And as you can see, I already have a create event. We can go over here to control and then we can go over here to code, and we can drag a piece of code over in here, and as you can see, it adds our executable code here, and it brings up this window that I have that will show us a blank slate. And what we can do is we can type whatever we want in here, and it will be executed. Now it has to be in a code format, and I will get to that later. But I'm going to show you a little bit of examples of, initialized variables. I have, my own initialized variable for gravity, horizontal speed, vertical speed, jump speed, movement speed, and the image speed. And then, as you can see, as I discussed earlier, I have a script that essentially plugs in a dialog box that says I should start building my house before it gets dark. So let's hold on one second. Let's go over to another object just to show you what's going on here. Let's see. Oh yes, Treebase. This one I am actually really proud of. I figured this out all by myself. Yes, I figured this out all by myself. But here's another example of what you can put in a create event. Randomize, another for loop, and then I set the variable of health or health points to 100. And I will get into what all of these stand for later in a different tutorial. And here's another event that we can use is the global right mouse button pressed. And every time we right click, see I'm right clicking. Every time we right click, all of this code in here is applied. All right, now another group that we can use is the rooms group. If we double click on a room, here you can see that we have pretty much exactly everything that we want in a room. This includes everything that the quote-unquote level has. So basically this quote-unquote level is the main menu, which isn't really a level. It's just a way for us to be able to, or at least for me to be able to express it better. But this main menu quote-unquote level, has all these buttons. It has the title, and it just has, options and things for you. We can go into settings here. You can name the room. We can name the width and the height of the room. We can set the speed, which is essentially how many frames per second the room has. We can set it to persistent, meaning that the room will always exist in its current state. So basically, if we, change to the character selection panel and we click persistent, every time we go back to this room, when we keep the window open, it will remain on the character selection screen. So then views. Views are pretty cool. Views allow you to set your window to a specific part of the game room. All right, let me close this down. It lets you go to any part of the game window and display it for you. And I will get into the differences between view in room and port on screen, because there is a big difference that applies to how things are drawn. And so now we can go to the level room and show you how big it is really. I have this zoomed out all the way, just to show you, because the player appears in the center, and there's going to be like trees and flowers and things, and I'm going to show you an example of what I have. I haven't messed around with macros or extensions or included files. Game information, not much. Global game settings, you're going to want to check this out. Let's see, where do we find that? Right here. So when you double click global game settings and you go to Windows, if you're using Windows that is, we're going to go under graphics, and something that I want you guys to uncheck is this interpolate colors between pixels things is checked off. You're going to want to uncheck it, because interpolate colors between pixels essentially makes it so that your colors blend together as much as possible. So for example, if you have, let's go up here, if you have a sprite player, let's go with average Joe, just standing still. Let's go in here. If you have a little sprite like this, I actually just grabbed this off of the internet and then manipulated it to how I wanted it to go. If you want to have a little sprite like this, and it's with this low quality, or not low quality, but low pixel count, essentially this small, if you check off interpolate pixels, it'll try to blend in everything around here. So this pink will try to blend in with the black, and the black with the green, and the white, and all that, and it'll just look really gross. So if you're having a low pixel game, I do recommend that you untick the interpolate. This interpolate colors between pixels. Yeah. Untick this, and it will look a lot better. It'll look a lot sharper, and it'll look exactly how you want it to. However, for games that have sprites that are like 800 by 800, you might not need to do that. So now that we have all this together, I'm going to show you the finished product of what you can do, what you can make if you learn this software. And hopefully with my tutorials, I'll be able to get you there. Alright, so this game that I have is called Moving In. New, load, and quit. Load does absolutely nothing, but new takes us to our character selection screen. As you can see, these buttons do different things, and they rotate between the different types of characters that you could make. Retiree, businessman, writer, and engineer. And this is just specific for my game, but when we press this play button, it takes us to our room level, and we can move around using the code that we put into our object player. See how it all just comes full circle? And this is just a little game that I was making a long time ago. I might come back to it because it actually is really interesting. You know, I have something where if you say collect a bunch of wood, you can plop down blocks of wood like so, and then you can get on top of them and jump around, and it's just it's a Terraria-esque platform game. Alright, so hopefully this offers you a better understanding of this software and the basics of what you're going to be doing with your game. The things that I didn't talk about, like the paths and the shaders and the timelines and the included files, extensions, and things, you can research them on your own or wait for me to make a tutorial about them. I may or may not, simply because I just don't use them. But you might find a use for them, and that's okay. So with that being said, thank you so much everyone who watches this video, and I will hopefully get back to you real soon with another tutorial. Thanks.